individually and collectively. Tyranny is not a part of history, it is a part of humanity. Humanity is always on the brink of slipping into it, of chasing the rabbit of hope into dystopian wonderlands. Orwell realized that tyranny was always possible and can occur even in a society in which the intentions are noble, or in a society in which the conditions are prosperous and democratic. Perhaps our only hope, somewhat countering Orwell's view, is realizing that, in fact, there is no ultimate objective truth, at least that we have access to, and that subjective truth is likely all there is and all there will ever be for us. We must accept this as a consequence of our condition of ignorance and limitation, our fragmented perceptions and dissenting values. But perhaps, when we take this realization to the extreme, we realize that all individuals, all groups, all organizations, and all nations are fallible and wrong. There is no one idea or truth to follow or believe. Perhaps in doing this, we burn up all the fuel of totalitarianism, and, at the bottom of the tank, we find the collective realization of simple decency, the kind in which Orwell advocated for, the kind in which we arrive at mutually beneficial intersubjective truths based on humility and compassion toward the differences and malleabilities of humanity across time and space, rather than an ultimate rightness and finality of right and wrong. Of course, this is far, far easier said than done. But in the words of Orwell, when referring to the conditions of 1984, the moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you. Some of the best books we will ever read in our lives are books we have already read, and many books that would completely change our lives are possibly books we will never even come across. Both returning to classic instrumental books from our lives and discovering new books that help further shape our lives are extremely important for expanding our understanding and keenness about ourselves and the world. But with near infinite options of books to choose from, it can be extremely difficult and time-consuming to do this successfully. However, with this video sponsor, Blinkist, you can much more easily overcome this challenge, create better habits around reading and learning, transform your perception, and constantly be improving the way you think. With over 7,500 nonfiction books and podcasts across tons of different categories and topics, Blinkist beautifully curates and breaks down titles into around 15-minute summaries and key takeaways, which can be both read and listened to. Blinkist also offers personalized recommendations and daily suggestions based on books you read and topics you like, making it even easier to discover new titles you might have otherwise never known about. Whether you want to refresh yourself on Orwell's 1984, or Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, or learn more about totalitarianism and how it grew and developed in Russia, and Masha Gessen's The Future is History, or learn about the various kinds of metaphorical soil most fertile for other political and social phenomena, Blinkist makes it easy to do so. Whenever you find great titles, easily share them with friends and family using Blinkist's feature, Blinkist Spaces. Based on an internal study using survey data from Blinkist customers, 95% of Blinkist members say they read significantly more than before Blinkist, and 91% say they create better habits. You can do the same and get a 7-day free trial and 40% off Blinkist's annual premium membership by using my link in the description. And of course, as always, thank you so much for watching in general, and see you next video.
¡Sus almas! Pobres bestias no tienen remedio.
As I handle we sort packages as they coming down the slide, after sorting them, we place them on a conveyor belt with the label faced up. If the label isn't faced up, they do not get properly scanned. They go down to the ad for slide, and then they go through the whole process. In the beginning, it was challenging, and I say it was challenging because when I first started, freight came down so heavy. But as I started working, and the more I got used to working, me and my coworkers, we actually stick together to help get our freight out quick and efficient. I love the flexible overtime that you're able to get. I love how the managers are always there for you, and I also love how we work together as a team, just like most people. Joining FedEx was a life-changing experience for me. It's helping me grow as an individual. I always strongly encourage people to come here. So all you have to do is come to work, stay dedicated, do your job, be consistent, and you're able to move up. The people here that are willing to help you. Join me at Team
This video is sponsored by Blinkist, the app that condenses thousands of nonfiction books into 15-minute summaries. Use the link in the description and receive 1 free week and 25% off a premium membership. Fyodor Dostoevsky is widely regarded as one of the greatest novelists in history. His fictional work is so rich with deep insights into human psychology, particularly its interplay with various social and political structures of the modern world. He is equal parts renowned psychologist and philosopher. His work brings into question how well we truly know ourselves, what we really want, and how we go about considering and attaining these things in the world, as well as the consequences of following false delusions and impossible ideals. His insights and warnings about humanity, both individually and collectively, were not only ahead of his time, but in many ways, they are still arguably unheeded warnings, immensely relevant to today. Dostoevsky was born in 1821 in Moscow, Russia, to a well-off Orthodox Christian family. His father was a successful doctor, and his family lived on the hospital grounds where his father worked. While in his teens, however, his mother died of tuberculosis, and while Dostoevsky was away at school studying to become an engineer, his father died without definitive cause, although it was reported and speculated that he was murdered by his own serfs in an act of vengeance against his abusive tendencies. Young Dostoevsky's proximity to the conditions of a hospital, his upbringing in a strong faith family, and the early deaths of both his parents, especially that of the mysterious possible murder of his father, likely all culminated into some amount of the early foundation of what would go on to become his unique but tragic voice as a writer. After graduating from a military engineering institute, Dostoevsky would work as an engineer. However, as a means of engaging in his budding passion for literature and humanities, he also began translating books on the side during this time. As his passion for literature soon increased further and further, he would resign from his engineering career and focus solely on writing himself. In 1846, he published his first book, titled Poor Folk. Right away, this work received commercial success and was reviewed favorably by literary critics of the time, deemed as Russia's first social novel. However, Dostoevsky's subsequent works just following this one would struggle to find any similar level of success, and he soon found himself mostly just experimenting and failing as a writer, quickly falling into financial distress. Partly as a consequence of his financial situation, in 1847, while in his late 20s, Dostoevsky became associated with a radical group of writers and intellectuals focused on utopian socialism. This, however, would soon lead him to being arrested when the government went after those associated with these types of groups. In 1849, as punishment, Dostoevsky was sentenced to death by firing squad. On December 22nd of the same year, he stood facing the barrel of a gun pointed at his head. The remainder of his life was now counted in minutes. As the officials held their aim and steadied to pull the trigger, suddenly, at the last moment, a message arrived, and Dostoevsky was pardoned. The execution would turn out to be a mock execution, used merely as a psychological tactic to instill fear in the prisoners. Following this, Dostoevsky was instead sent to Siberia, where he was forced to work grueling labor in horrible conditions for 4 years. In 1860, Dostoevsky returned from Siberia, but returned a very different man. He would soon begin writing again, but now his voice would contain a new tone of pessimism, realism, and a highly perceptive understanding of the human psyche. He was now turned away from utopian ideals of society, and instead, his focus was now turned inward towards spiritual and psychological explorations. Over the following 20 years, before dying of a lung disorder in 1881, Dostoevsky would produce several successful masterpieces, many of which are still regarded as some of the most important works of literature to this day, including Notes from Underground, Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, Demons, and The Brothers Karamazov. One of the more prominent themes established in much of Dostoevsky's work was his insights on and assessment of human suffering, more particularly the means by which and the consequences of humanity trying to overcome and rid itself of suffering, especially in relation to a time in which religious and spiritual anchors were cut loose and individuals and societies were left to create and defend their worldviews through an increasing thrust of rationality and technology toward the ideal of perfect well-being.
Make fast your default. Make safe your default. Make Chrome your default. Choose Google Chrome for your phone.
Notes from Underground, published in 1864, Dostoevsky explores and critiques these modern Western ideals, rationality and technological progress as a means toward perfect happiness and goodness. In the novel, we follow an unnamed retired civil servant, often referred to as the Underground Man, who receives his diary. He is angry and unhappy, and he possesses a disdain for others and the delusions in which others live. He wants to make other people see the truth and acknowledge the same discontent and absurdity he knows and feels in life. For Dostoevsky, suffering is a fundamental tenet of
Puta, boludo, qué mogolicazo que sos.
blood. Thus, there is no life, nor social or material condition for life that can exist without